So a very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to this live webinar organized by Motor India, powered by Here Technologies. Last year, we had hosted a series of 4 webinars in partnership with Here Technologies that brought out some amazing and valuable insights related to location technology, fleet management, EVs, supply chain, asset tracking, and many other topics. Today, we are delighted to welcome you to the first of another series of 4 webinars brought to you by the Motor India Here partnership. Today, our focus will be on connected vehicles and how technology and location can enhance the connected vehicle experience for CV fleet customers. A warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, our moderator and presenter for today. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and joining us for today's session. I'd like to begin by outlining the agenda for today. We will start off with a brief presentation by our partner Here Technologies. Then we will have a panel discussion for about an hour, followed by audience Q&A. Now I'd like to quickly introduce our speakers for our audience. Our presenter for today is Mr. Nico Booker, Senior Manager, Industry Solutions Automotive, Here Technologies. Based in Germany, Nico is involved in shaping and evolving Here's global automotive product and market strategy in connected driving. In his role, Nico identifies and translates trends and requirements into value propositions for the industry, of course, through the lens of location. He has over 10 years of experience in sales, business development, and marketing for embedded software and hardware in automotive infotainment and ADAS. The topic of his presentation today will be location, driving efficiency gains, and new revenue streams, an area that would certainly be of interest for commercial fleets. For the panel discussion, we have 4 distinguished speakers with us today. First up, we have an OEM representative, Mr. Rajesh Mishra, Executive Vice President and Chief Digital Officer at Volvo Eicher Commercial Vehicles. Rajesh is responsible for group-wide initiatives on process transformation and IT solutions and has more than 27 years of industry experience in IT and large-scale transformation programs. VECV has been a front-runner in implementing connected solutions on its trucks and buses, and Rajesh will share more on that with us today. Our second speaker is also from the OEM domain, in fact, from the country's largest CV maker, Tata Motors. Mr. Bharat Bhushan, who heads strategy, digital, and business development at TML. With a career at Tata Motors spanning over 24 years, Bharat comes with a wealth of experience across different functions like strategy, digital transformation, business transformation, product planning, manufacturing, and so on. He has been instrumental in the development and launch of Tata Motors' connected vehicle solution for fleet management, Fleet Edge, and that makes him a perfect fit for our panel and discussion today. Our third speaker is Mr. Rajeev Bhattacharya, Chief Operating Officer at V Express, a division of VTrans India Limited. Rajeev brings a highly accomplished professional experience spanning over 2 decades and has held roles in managing profit center operations involving sales and marketing budgeting, CRM, revenue expansion, process optimization, logistics, and supply chain management. Rajeev is our exclusive representative from the logistics space today, and he will share insights from a fleet user perspective. Our fourth and final speaker is Mr. Animesh Kumar Shahi, who is currently the head of customers for India and South Asia at Here Technologies. Animesh has over 24 years of experience and has worked in sales leadership positions for various organizations like CA Technologies, RAD, Juniper Networks, and Oracle. Representing Here, which is a location intelligence and technology leader globally, Animesh will bring in a technology angle for connected vehicles during our discussion. And to moderate today's discussion, we have Mr. Hemal Thakkar, Director for Transport, Logistics, and Mobility Practice at CRISIL. Hemal has over 15 years of experience in the automotive logistics and road segment, and in his current role, oversees a diverse 15-member team who are responsible for CRISIL's offerings in the mobility and logistics segment, spreading across areas like demand forecasting, market opportunity assessment, competitive benchmarking, to name a few. I must mention that Hemal has worked on several marquee assignments for the automotive industry, including the Automotive Mission Plan 2026, a joint 10-year forward-looking policy document for the automotive industry that included industry bodies like SIAM, ACMA, and FADA. So once Nico's presentation is done, the floor will all be yours, Hemel. That's all about our speakers for today. Now for some quick housekeeping information for the audience. We will take up audience questions after the panel discussion. So please keep your questions coming in. You can share them in the Q&A window on your screen, and we will do as much as possible towards the end. And as always, apart from the Zoom platform, the session is also live on Motor India's channel. So with intro, I now hand over.
Yeah, thank you, Bala. That was a good intro, and happy to be here today. I'll start bringing up the presentation. Please quickly confirm if you see the right screen.
Yeah, the right one, Nico. Driving efficiency gains. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Good. And for joining today, my name is Nico Booker, and with a few slides and a few impressions from how we as here basically perceive to the transitions that are perceivable, not just in the passenger, but also in the commercial vehicles, as well as the role that we see also in growing kickoff by introducing us as here technologies just a little bit to the few out there who might not know us. I want to first of all highlight that even though it sounds like a lot of bragging, we have it consistently and consecutively confirmed by also third-party analysts that we are the world's #1 location data and technology platform. And we are, of course, very proud of that because that shift was one that took us some time, but we are now at a stage where we are proud to be offering up not just the map content that we are famous for, basically as the underlying part of that, including location services, our workspace, our marketplace, and business applications that we offer on top of that. In terms of numbers, right? This is a snapshot of here today, right? Location technology has a broad application, and we serve almost 50 use cases today with what we do. Obviously, we're working hard to, have our platform reach far and wide. And I think that is also proven by the total number of more than 250,000 developers that are building directly on the HERE platform today. We have another 3 million developers that are leveraging the capabilities of our platform through the likes of Microsoft Azure, Salesforce, MuleSoft, and for example, Samsung. But there's so many more partners that are, of course, tapping into that. It is very often about the advantage of our broad map coverage that we are offering on a global scale, spanning cities, roads, but all the way down to even venues, right? Which is also an increasing area of interest for us. One important aspect of our work is providing mapping for vehicles, obviously, right? That's what we are famous for, where we come from. And that is proven in a way also by the fact that we are in close to 4 out of every 5 cars now sold in Europe and North America. We are also leaders in mapping for automated vehicles, right? Where it's really about the high precision and real-time maps towards the future, moving into higher levels of automation, something that is not so much in focus today, but of course, very much in scope for everything that I would say collectively we here on this group of people are looking at, right? When you produce a digital representation of the physical reality, it of course also opens up lots of opportunities in many different verticals. And this is to also highlight and show that we are covering so much more in terms of industries and verticals than just automotive by now, right? We are for some time now also very active and successful in the transport and logistics space. We are covering telco and tech and media, retail, and so on. So there's endless opportunities as there's growing connectivity among devices, and then of course also pretty much everything that we operate with. There's also an enhanced area of opportunity for everything that we are looking at. This also translates, of course, into a host of new markets in terms of use cases, right? And we won't have nearly enough time to talk about this in detail today, but this is to show and highlight that if you know us as the kind of pure map provider for the IVI use case in automotive, think again. We have evolved, we have changed, and we have actually a lot on the track that goes beyond just that. Coming to the actual topic of this short presentation today, I first want to highlight how in the transition that we can all perceive in this industry today, that there's also a shift in revenue pools, right? The SDV, as it's written out, software-defined vehicle, right? We believe is a bracket around all future growth areas in automotive, right? In automotive electronics and electrics. We can see that already today, automotive has turned into a software business, right? Obviously, the metal bending still takes a large part of it, but we see how this is accelerating at a fast pace, right? And obviously, this will also gradually apply to commercial vehicles, right? At the, let's say, foundational layer of all of this, we will see more and more vehicles transitioning towards central high computing platforms. Enablers such as OTA will help really to bring in updates and feature upgrades throughout the entire life cycle of vehicles, right? We will for sure also see a stronger push towards electrification, something that is already happening in many markets globally. Automation is something that already is reaching very high levels of penetration. And on top of that, the digital cockpit, and thought a bit further in terms of passenger vehicles, becomes more and more relevant to basically capture eyeballs, even more so as more time becomes available to drivers, which, well, for instance, this will also turn into passengers, right? And if you think that this is very, very far out, if you believe numbers and the ramping up and the curve basically really points up, is actually going to be very steep. So depending on what you believe, I find it believable. By 2030, we will see that 50% of the market will have shifted towards at least domain centralized or even zonal architectures that really enable much of the promises of the software-defined vehicle. What it does, though, of course, it forces the OEMs and all of their suppliers, inclusive of ourselves, right, to also think into different directions and dimensions, and to really consider the entire life cycle, not so much just the, let's say, point of sale, right? So pushing towards an RFQ, pushing towards an SOP, and then, well, focusing on hopefully some bucks to be made with aftermarket business, right? It goes beyond that, and we see, of course, very prominent examples in the market already that do it like that. But what is really important, and it's going to become even more pressing for OEMs, is to provide scalable platforms that, at the day of shipment, really still provide headroom that is enough to have additional features and services roll out throughout the life cycle. Secondly, what we of course also see is that this opens the door wide for tech players in the market that are very much experienced in catering to these kind of, let's say, consumer electronics derived needs. And it also brings up the request and the requirement, the imperative for OEMs to somehow still remain in charge of critical control points and channels, right? Because ultimately, the vast opportunity that basically starts being created in this space is worth nothing if you, as the OEM, and of course also a supplier in this game, have no right to play in it and have no control over what goes in and out of the vehicle, inclusive of transactions. What we do see in this transition, right, and I don't even want to bring up that word of case anymore, connected, automated, shared, electrified, is that we will see that vehicle sales, at least in many regions of this world, are more or less stagnating, right? But at the same time, also that traditional after sales, which of course is traditionally a huge source of income for OEMs, are poised to go down, right? So this revenue is basically not going away, but it's going to decline, at least in proportion to what we are used to. And that is owed to, well, first of all, the electric vehicle overall comes with much more durability. It comes with less requirements in terms of maintenance. And if you think about, let's say, more automated use cases, it could also lead to much higher utilization, right? So that is not necessarily good news for the OEM. On the other hand, digitization and connectivity brings with it lots of opportunities around monetizing the in-vehicle experience. If you think about the commercial aspects, I would also argue the fleet aspect of things, right, outside of the vehicle, as well as enabling savings and efficiency gains, right? That can be as simple as online car sales, but of course, the aspect of OTA updates and upgrades, remote diagnostics and maintenance is something that I find much more relevant for this group of people here. We see some very prominent examples already that are outspoken in the market, right? We see how VW Group is starting to communicate actual price levels and basically to give a feeling of what they believe is realistic, right? So they are thinking directions of, charging a driver, a private customer, basically €7 per hour of level 4 driving, right? That is speculative. Level 4 is quite some time out still, but you see that OEMs are really banking on this to become a steady source of income. Ford commenting similar in similar fashion, where they believe that they for sure can charge for hands-free driving technology, right, at a cost, right? And obviously, the most prominent example in the market still Tesla with their actually pretty successful launch of well, as they call it, full self-driving capabilities. Initially, really with a lump sum, by now also as a subscription service. One center piece of all of this, we believe, and what we see already today is user experience, right? Because much of the transition towards higher levels of automation also kind of demands a very critical kind of situation where the driver is kind of forced to still be very much alert, at the same time also take the hand of the steering wheel for certain instances. And as soon as we are moving into level 3 automation, we can also see how there will be much more time that is available to be spent on screens, right? So the digital cockpit becomes a major battleground, I would say, to be fought out between OEMs, suppliers for certain services, as well as then, as we call them, big tech, right? The driver really can use in that instance, basically the map as a canvas for services that can be consumed while they're not actually driving themselves, right? During this time, consumers can increasingly expect to be presented with useful connected services, additional information, right? The map needs to be turned into basically host these connected services. And ideally, of course, also to highlight what route the driver is on, right? So it becomes less of an active, let's say, destination input, and much more also in the future of an kind of like proactive anticipation of the algorithm to basically foresee where you're going and to basically give you the kind of confidence that the vehicle also has the information available for let's say, the more automated driving scenarios. And for some of the connected services and experience the driver can interact with, you could think of examples such as parking, which of course is top of mind in many cities for stressed commuters. Sometimes, of course, also in combination with charging, which is going to become a major use case, right? Especially if it's also available in combination with automated valet parking. That requires, of course, deep UI information that also is up to date, and that basically takes away much of the time and hassle. It's going to be about providing on-demand services and experiences. And ultimately, of course, also a huge opportunity to provide entertainment, basically something that people are otherwise consuming on the mobile devices. Finally, what it requires really is also a platform and a workspace that enables the creation of unique location-based services that really are engaged throughout the entire life cycle. To give you just a brief example of a current solution that here is proposing on the market, and which is also actually already launched in the market, we see here navigation as a very positive example of how throughout the life cycle, OEMs can basically enhance the feature scope, enhance the user experience through additional services that bring value. We see that useful not just for passenger vehicles and like personal drivers, but also for fleet use cases, right? One example here which is so far illustrative, is the driver development service package, right? Where basically the OEM can push even later on at a later stage, any given time, a service package, as we call it, that basically enhances the navigation experience with a driver development service that helps optimizing efficiency, optimizing basically the driving style of a professional driver, and thus, of course, saving precious fuel, right? On the other hand, we have something that is available as POC, where we collaborate with a company called Traffic Technology Services that provides the drivers with valuable information about connected traffic lights that basically indicate the ideal speeds on your path forward, again, to save hassle, to save fuel. Talking about efficiency, and here we, of course, are starting to touch especially on the commercial space, right? What we really see is that it starts, of course, at a very early stage already in an actual transaction here. It's about planning for an efficient journey, right? To improve on-time performance and efficiency. For that, you really need dynamic route optimizations to make journeys safer, right? And to really make sure that maps. Again, the aspect of unlocking data service revenues, right? Because also here, there's much to be unlocked still, and there's lots of potential in it that is still unearthed. It's about deriving insights and predicting also what is relevant along a job, basically, that is rendered by a commercial vehicle. And last but not least, of course, to a growing extent in many markets of this world, a race towards zero emissions, right? With clear information about range and also charging strategies. To finish off with an example that is about to have its SOP soon, right? Volta Trucks is a public information, basically, is a partner of ours who is actually combining lots of the things that I've just mentioned, right? They are launching not just our integrated navigation, right? With lots of the bells and whistles that are needed for an electric truck. They also use our search, our routing, our real-time traffic, and turn-by-turn voice guidance, both on and offline, and ultimately enabling them to really launch a product that the market so far has not seen, a 60-ton commercial vehicle, fully electric, that comes with lots of additional services. I'm running towards the end of my time here. I'm actually already almost 2 minutes over. Let me quickly wrap up. We, of course, want to position ourselves as your trusted partner to enrich your portfolio, right, with our location data, lakes, tool chains, and algorithms to optimize your own service portfolio, right? We want to help you to improve your operations with, of course, data-driven decision-making and also providing the location context that is needed for that. Co-creation is a very, very strong focus area of ours. So we want to really grow together with you. And last but not least, of course, this aspect of accelerating the monetization of data, something that I was trying to basically rush through, but still highlight here, where we believe that it is now basically the time for OEMs to take charge and really make the best of the opportunity that is basically looming, and not give it up to new entrants here, because that is, of course, always a threat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nico. Over to you, Hemal.
Thank you very much, Nico, for that, very, very fantastic presentation, if I have to say so. There are a lot of things that are happening globally, and I'm sure a lot of it can be leveraged in India also through what HERE is doing. And I can already see a few of your customers who are there on the panel today. So without wasting much time, I would like to directly get into the panel discussion. So welcome one and all, for this interesting panel discussion today. What I would like to, kind of give each one of you an opportunity to, have some opening remarks where, I'll prompt each one of you to give a heads up of what is the current status today. So, for example, if I say, let's start with, say, Bharat. If I have to ask you, Bharat, that a very naive question. I'm sure the answer is going to be yes. But what is it that we want to understand is, do you guys deploy telematics? I'm sure you know the answer is obviously yes. But of the total fleet that you have, what proportion would have telematics, and what are the basic features that you provide as a part of the telematics package that you know are giving to your customers?
Yeah, thanks, Hemant. As a strategy or as a policy, all vehicles, which is MNSV, which is the larger vehicles, ILCV and buses, in BS6 go with telematics unit. So they are 3 years of subscription free. The customer doesn't have to pay anything for that unit or for that solution. And they have access to our Fleet Edge portal also, and Fleet Edge driver app, and our normal app also. This is what is as per policy, and hence to be precise, 100% of our MNSC ILC buses go with telematics unit. That is to answer your first question, Kemal. Right. In the second piece, I'll go a little deeper, because we do not look at telematics only as a track and trace. Right. It is way beyond what we are looking at, right? And it is a means to improve customers' business, right? And that's the key of, and that's one of the key differentiator between a passenger car and a commercial vehicle, right? It is a commercial use, and hence customer would like to get a monetary tangible benefit in terms of business operations from this kind of solutions, right? Although the market is still is evolving, and we are still seeing people are adapting to this, and larger fleet already has that a lot of penetration there. But we are also looking at and seeing larger medium fleet owners also getting into this business, right? So just to give a perspective, the average engagement time on Fleet Edge from average engagement time for all the customers is almost 10 to 12 minutes per login, right? So they're spending good amount of time on this platform. This gives us a confidence that yes, people are using it, contrary to the normal belief that it is not. That is number one. So we are looking at how do we improve customers' business, and that's where we are looking at how do we improve his fuel efficiency, how do we improve his maintenance, how do we improve his uptime. So all of this is part of our solution, and which is directly and indirectly we engage with customer to offer these solutions. That is number one, which is as of now, right? But in future, we do have a plan of engaging this solution way beyond what is there, and to get into customers' operation in deeper, maybe towards his revenue side also, towards his cost sides also, and we are also looking at how do we get good amount of insights for ourselves also within the company to be able to improve our product, to improve our solutions, and be able to engage with customer on a much deeper basis than what we are doing. We have been doing till now, right? So that's where the personalization and customization come in play, and that's where we are looking at from Fleet, and that's what Fleet is built now.
Sure. Interesting. One thing that I would want to understand from you is, you said that fuel efficiency, apart from track and trace, how does the, fleet operator improve productivity, increases uptime, etc. Are these all, features provided as a part of the standard package, or these are customized as per the requirement of the fleet operator?
No, so see, the customer has two options, right? And we actually work on two models, right? One is customer can DIY or do it yourself kind of solution, where we give you insight and you act upon that, right? So this is your utilization, this is your AP, basis or all these parameters. You can customize, or you can act on your insights, right? Second is engagement model, where we engage with customer along with this data going there, and basis this data we start working with customer to improve their fuel efficiency, and that is more of a digital engagement, which is more of a Fleet Edge plus physical engagement, which allows us to have a interaction there.
Sure. Thanks, Bharat. Thanks for your response there. Mr. Mishra, moving on to you, would like to pose a similar question to you. That when did you guys introduce telematics? I'm sure, as Bharat mentioned, with BS6 coming in, it is more or less mandatory for everyone in a way, when you sell a vehicle. But when did you guys introduce telematics, and are all your vehicles connected?
Yeah, so Hemant, thanks for giving me this opportunity. And Volvo Eicher has been in the front foot in terms of modernizing products, services, connected and mobility solutions. We introduced our telematics way back in 2014 in our heavy duty technology, which was a joint technology along with our Volvo JV partner. And it was an advanced telematics solution. And then as we went into BS6, we said that, with the complexity which is going to come in, we need to do something about uptime. So we actually set up first of its kind uptime center, which is not only delivering remote diagnostic and host of other services, plus predictive uptime services. So what we mean there is that, using our IoT rule engine and advanced analytics, we know that which are the cases which are going to go in stop now, visit soon, or do it yourself. And we do end-to-end service management of these cases. So in case of stop now, we actually stop the vehicle, we call up customer, driver, we make our breakdown service get activated, go to the site, repair the truck, and then allow it to move on. Visit soon basically is about ensuring that in the next service schedule, it is automatically tagged and those issues are resolved. Plus, OTA services, over-the-air services for, our trucks. So when we started seeing the benefit of this, then we decided to announce 100% connected. So July 2020, we announced 100% and practically all range of vehicle, buses, light and medium duty and heavy duty, all are now 100% connected. And then we moved on. We said that we should now create some very unique value proposition on the mobility platform. So a traditional telematics platform, we have created a MyAshar platform, which is basically a convergence of telematic, product services, aftermarket services, all bundled together. So around 60 odd services, including partner services. So that is the platform which we continue to work upon, and quarter to quarter, we are building it up and making it one of the best platform in the industry.
Sure. Fantastic. That's really heartening to know, started in 2014, probably then in July 2020, rolled it out for everyone for that matter. And then you've been building onto it, over a period of time. One more follow-up question, sir. These telematic solutions, are they something, which are built in-house, or, you kind of jointly do it with someone? How does this happen, at VCVZ?
So as you know, there are two parts of it. One is the device side and other is the software side. So device side, we have a partnership with big OEMs and the firmware on the device with the TCU firmware, some bit of it is internalized, some bit it is the base software which comes from these OEMs.
Sure.
The offboard platform, which is whether it is an uptime platform or the connected platform or MyAshar platform, it is internally managed with the startup partner ecosystem. So we don't have any large partner working with us, because we believe that this is something which is going to get innovated and experimented on a very, very agile basis. So we wanted to secure it internally so that we can turn it around much faster.
Sure. Bharat, would it be very similar at your end also?
No, so one couple of points, rather, Himal. One is, yes, just to put on record, our Fleetman solution, which was the first solution which we had, connected solution, which was in 2014, right? We also had Fleetman, which was on 30% of our vehicles. There was on Fleetman, right? And then we migrated to Fleet Edge on 2020. Yes, the solution in terms of what hardware, yes, it is outsourced, but it has been developed with our engineering inputs the way we wanted it.
Sure.
And the firmware and the software is in-house, right? So we do have partners in terms of UI agencies or the developers who are coding this, and also we have partners where we have ecosystem partners coming on the platform. So that part also is there. So it is combination of in-house and outsource, depending on what kind of use case we are looking at.
Sure. Okay. Good. good points, those. Rajiv, if I may, kind of come to you next, going in that order because, OEMs, customers, and then, probably Animesh at last, who's the technology provider. So Rajiv, if I have to understand that, you would be owning a lot of fleet and, also would be running or responsible for running a lot of them because you would attach a lot of vehicles, being a, large logistics service provider. So what is the fleet size that you have in total, that is in operations, and how many of them will be embedded with these telematics solutions?
Good afternoon to everybody, and great to be here. Of course, as you rightly said, the manufacturers are doing their bit a lot in terms of getting us those technology. We at the user end has, of course, a lot of issues and problems in augmenting all these technologies. We'll come to that point later.
Sure.
As a fleet, we totally in a month we deploy around 45,000 to 50,000 vehicles in a month.
Sure.
So on an average, 1,500 to 1,800 trucks are deployed every day.
Okay.
And these are categorized into multiple segments. One, of course, is for the mid-mile operation, which is the large trucks which we use. And also we have vehicles which are used in the first mile and the last mile operations. Now, first mile and last mile are more captive in nature because they're contracted out on a fixed, on a regular basis.
Yeah.
In the mid-mile, there are three categories. One is we have our own fleet. We run about 250 vehicles of our own, which is owned by our company. The second part is we have contracted vendors which are flying in a two-way model, or also there are vendors who operate on a single-way model. And the third one is purely ad hoc basis, which we take it out on the markets.
Sure.
Different brokers or from different vendors, we hire those vehicles depending on the demand. Now, except the last one, which is the ad hoc one, all other vendors are definitely, when we take, it is mandatory to have telematics devices in the system.
Fantastic.
And our fleet, of course, we have our own telematics systems. When it comes to the ad hoc, this one, definitely we want the telematic to be there, but we are not able to integrate those telematics into our system because they are on ad hoc basis. Whereas the rest other ones are all integrated into our ERP system, where we can actually integrate a lot of information and we use those information where to run our operations. So we'll come to that point later. What are the so that's how we operate. And for this ad hoc vehicles, what we do is we use the mobile tracking.
Okay.
Right. We track those vehicles.
So basically, if I understand correctly, these will be largely in a way, or a common feature amongst all of them would be track and trace, which will be present. But apart from that, the additional services would probably depend on applications or the application for which the truck is put to use. Okay.
So there are primarily two use cases broadly. One is for our internal operational efficiency. We use this not only for track and trace, but other applications. The other side is the fleet owners, as rightly said by Bharat and Rajeev, the fleet owners use this to optimize fuel efficiency, to optimize their other aspects of the vehicle maintenance part of it. So they use that part of it.
Sure.
Now, when it comes to logistics company, we primarily use one is for definitely for track and trace. We also use them for our service quality performance. Like what we do is we do the geofencing. With that, we the arrivals and departures of the vehicles. We get the right timing of the vehicles coming in, kilometers measurement for actual payment out to the vendors. Then in terms of the stoppages which they are doing, how many stoppages they have done, how many times they have oversped, is there any correlation of that overspeeding to many damages of which is happening inside the container? Then in terms of the route also, so suppose we find the routes which the vendor is taking is not the appropriate route in terms of the quality of the road. So then we suggest the alternate routes. So all those analytics we do by using this telematics.
Interesting. Animesh, if I have to come to you, uh, how have you seen, this entire landscape of telematics change in the last couple of years? As every one of them mentioned, since 2014, say VECV, Tata Motors both have been providing, telematics as a service. And today there is a lot of add-on features that they've put onto the basic track and trace. So have you seen the entire, kind of market evolve over a period of time? And what are the newer things that you are seeing coming in? And how are you basically attacking those areas?
Thanks, Hemant. And you're right. I mean, if you talk about the basic telematic services that has been there in the market for quite some time, right? When you talk about track and trace, and that's something that has been there. But what has happened is that over the period of time, this service has evolved to add a lot of new features. Okay, because today the business demands have changed dramatically, right? I mean, let me give you one example, and that would probably bring out how the industry and why the industry is evolving. See, today, if you look at buying even ₹100 product from, say, an Amazon, right? Amazon will give you a very clear indication of where your product is, when it is being shipped, where it has reached, when it's going to reach you, what is the ETA. So suddenly the end of the day, whether you're talking about your business customers or you're talking about your consumer customers, end of the day, they're the same people, right?
Sure.
A person like me also goes and buys from an Amazon. So my expectation from when I ship a product worth lakhs of rupees, or when I do a commercial transaction, is very different, or rather more than what I'm doing from a consumer perspective. So all this has put a backward pressure on, I would say, into the TNL industry in terms of providing that visibility for each and every package. Now, when I say a package, the package could be anything. When we talk about a track and trace, and when we talk about an asset tracking, the asset tracking could be an entire truck tracking, or it could be a package tracking, right? So all this, and over the period of last 8 years, I would say the industry has also evolved to provide you with the connectivity, with the surrounding infrastructure, with the necessary, I would say, environment to ensure that you're able to deliver that kind of services, right? Over a period of time, earlier, when a truck would probably start, the owner did not have a visibility of where the truck was. So location started playing a very, very important role in this journey, right? From an ETA predicting. Now, for example, if you're talking about a large, I would say, warehouse, right? In the large warehouse, ETA is a very important aspect. When is the truck coming? For example, if they don't have a visibility of an ETA, this will impact in terms of a congestion for their loading and unloading points. So ETA becomes very important aspect. And ETA, again, is a very, very dynamic situation, right? Your ETA can vary based on traffic parameters, can based on accidents, can differ on the basis of environmental conditions. So all this would mean that there is an element of location, there's an element on the freshness, there's an element of dynamism that also comes into the entire track and trace or entire telematics game. Apart from that, it's becoming very competitive world. So it's also very important for people to do that post-trip planning, pre-trip planning. So it's also very important for people to really do the planning before you start the journey and map the entire route, come up with an approximate ETA, right? And what has also happened is that over the last couple of years, it's no longer a single modal I would say industry. It's a multimodal now. So your asset would travel through probably a truck or a ship or a railway or a motorcycle, could be anything. So it's also important for the ability of the technology to do that multimodal tracking. So that's the new thing. That's a very important thing which is happening today. And today, I mean, if you all recall the Suez Canal challenge, right? The Suez Canal, when the plane, when the ship blocked it, right? That created a supply chain crisis all across. But if there was a visibility element where people knew exactly what is stuck, where it is stuck, and for how long it is going to stuck, then you can go and do your replan. You can ensure that your supply chain doesn't get impacted. So somewhere down the line, the entire chain gets impacted if the visibility is not there. So visibility has become a very, very important factor as over this last 7 to 8 years that you're talking about. That's it, yeah.
Okay. So one thing, I would like to pose to both, Mr. Mishra and Bharat, both of you, is that basis what Animesh also spoke, it seems that, with this e-com companies coming into India, they have also led to a lot of push from their end in terms of this technology, where people have experienced it, people have, kind of in a way seen what happens. Because I remember in my early days, probably barring, the air cargo, you never had anything apart from a AWB number which you could probably track, and that too was like, whether it's left your, kind of source, and when it reaches the destination, you could never track it in transit, as Animesh mentioned, point to point where it is going, how it is traversing, etc. But with these companies coming in, all this has become very, kind of possible. Even courier companies earlier was largely more like, point to point tracking, it's left and, it's arrived, but nothing could be looked at in between. So is it that there is a push that has come from the customer side or from the technology side that, has led to a faster adoption of this technology? How do you, kind of look at this scenario?
So, if I have to take up this question, so it is segment to segment. As you said, e-commerce segment, definitely it has come from large players like Flipkarts and Amazon. And I just want to elaborate that. So basically, there are so many truckers who are single vehicle owners who are getting onto their platform. There the need is, and all these single vehicle owners were mandated to put some third party telematics device also.
Sure.
So, and that device is talking to Amazon ecosystem, and all this data is moving there, and Amazon is doing their own, monitoring and analytics, So, so what we, different area have different solutions. So what we did, we tied up with few of these partners. We told them, you don't need to put device. We will power your platform through our device, and will also bring some differentiation in terms of capabilities, which you don't have, which only OEM has, because I have access to all my data. Any other device will not have that access. How do we create a win-win value proposition between us and you, as well as to the end customer, which is Amazon? So this is the model which we have worked out with one of the e-commerce giant in India. And so things are changing, segment specific solutions are changing. Like mining, there are very different requirements.
Right.
Food and vegetable has very different requirements. Traditionally, if I have to tell you, traditionally OEM used to see telematics as a product proposition. So basically, it's mostly around FE and driving behavior, parameters around that. That is shifting. So it is around route, it is around trip, it is around load, it is around data integration with third-party ecosystem. So there are multiple flavors we are seeing, and everything has to be serviced. So we can't, suppose we are selling to a large customer, and if he has a specific need, and so we need to service that need, because that's how the adoption will grow. So that is the evolution which we are seeing in the market, which is happening.
Bharat, you would like to add anything there?
Yeah. So, Hemal, to add to what Rajesh said, right? There are two things which are happening, right? One is obviously you're right that the pull or the push from end user has gone up significantly, right?
Sure.
The turnaround time has become super critical, right? And the turnaround time has to be within that freight which you are getting, right? And hence the trade-off is very tight. And with freight rates and diesel being there where they are, the operating cost is a challenge, right? And hence transporter is fighting two battles, right? One is the turnaround time, and then it's while meeting the requirement of end user, at the same time maintaining his operating cost also to the level where he is profitable enough to be able to do that, right? This is one piece which is changing big time, and it is there. And as Rajesh said, the integration is the key, right? So the ecosystem has to come on the platform, right? And the platform which we have built, like Fleet Edge, is modular enough to integrate with anybody, right? So we don't through API you can integrate with any supplier or any partner, and hence you don't need to have the box or the data with you. The data wherever it is through API can come on either the platform, either it can come to Fleet Edge or with transport can use, or you can go to the end user platform where somebody else can track it, right? So this is how it is changing, and this is how it is critical for adoption, saying that how quickly are we able to integrate different solutions, because that's where the challenge is, right? So for multi-fleet, it is always a challenge. But yes, to answer your question, things are changing fast, and that this push is coming not only from any user, but transporters also. But they also wants to remain profitable, and everybody, even if you pick up steel or cement, everywhere operating cost is the key, right? And anything you can do to minimize that is the challenge, and which will add value to the customer. The second part, which is even critical, is that what Rajeev was saying, it is not only simple track and trace, right? Or so planning of a trip is so critical, right? So we actually have a full section on trip, where you can it is kind of a planning section which has a ERP solution built into mini ERP built into this, right? So we have gone to the extent where we have integrated that with the tally also, so that customer doesn't have to have entry at multiple level. You do at one planning, and then that gets ported to your ERP system, right? So that's how we are planning the integrations, and that's why we are making it so easier for people to have experience at different platforms, so that it becomes seamless, right? And that's why we are looking at.
Sure, fantastic. Rajeev, before coming to you, one more, follow-up question for both Bharat and, Mr. Mishra, is that, now with the implementation of these telematics solutions, which is now embedded in your vehicles, one of you also mentioned that there is a lot of data information that keeps flowing on an ongoing basis. Do we also see this being used somewhere in a way that going forward we'll see better products coming in? It will help us more better in terms of product development, looking at only things which are critical for a particular application from that perspective, and help us build better or future ready products.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not about seeing it is already started happening. So movement truck goes out of the plant, en route management to dealership. Then this data starts getting collected. Then your uptime, then your warranty analytics, then your network planning. So how do you decide where your next service point has to be created? Then from there on to how do you establish product premium to your customer? So how do you establish using this data the value to the customer? So multiple use cases, and so telematics is no more connected platform is not only a platform for our end customer or fleet owners. It is also a widespread usage in all the internal stakeholders.
Sure. Bharat, you would like to add something there?
Yeah. So this is one of the key proposition for fleet. The Fleet Edge, right? And we are looking at two types of data. One is location. The vehicle uses data, which is how customer is using it, right? So you get a real-time insight into how vehicle is being used. Previously, we didn't have that view, right? How vehicle is actually being, whatever you have designed it for and how it is being used, is you can always have a correlation and look at where all we can improve further, so that we are closer to the way it is being used, right? And the second piece is, how does the data come back into our system, saying that how do we start improving the vehicle itself in terms of design, in terms of various elements going there. And as Rajesh said, it is also like how do you start building your components accordingly, so that it becomes optimized. It actually gets optimized, right? So data is the big piece which is sitting there, and because as an OEM we have a deep OEM knowledge, and then you have a data, then you have a computing power, storage capacity. So all of this put together, we are best placed to use this data to be able to offer a good value prop to customer, also to us also going forward with different use cases. There are multiple use cases with data coming in, and that's where we are looking at.
Sure.
Very one last comment. A very strong example is earlier, before BS6, we used to struggle. How do we manage campaigns if there are any software issues? Since after we are 100% connected, using both OTA and prediction on the possible vehicles on which campaign is required, that itself has transformed the whole management of vehicles which need to be attended.
Fantastic.
Simple, but it is a very profound, impact in terms of, from a customer perspective. Your turnaround time is, I'm not asking his vehicle to come to workshop. I can handle it remotely. I can clearly identify which vehicle has a problem. So, lot of these value proposition are slowly, gaining the
dominance
in the organization, and there is a tremendous value which gets created.
Very important point. Fantastic. I'm sure this will also, help the fleet operator enhance his productivity to the next level, and that is at the end of the day, the objective that, probably someone like you or Bharat would have in mind, from your respective organization.
I'll just give you an example, Hemal, just to see the data perspective, right? With the kind of engagement we have with customer, right, in terms of data and how data is going to help customer. When you engage that with customer, we have seen and lift of almost 10 to 15% improvement in fuel efficiency, customized for that customer. This is a starting point, right? With whatever engagement we had, right? So it is such that you can personalize or customize the input for insight for a customer so that it improves in his operating condition. That's the closest we can get into that, right? Apart from what Rajeev said on terms of quota or SOTA, all of this is something which enables you to do it over the air. That is efficiency improvement. Second is performance improvement. Both are there, and data plays a big role in this.
Yeah, and as both of you mentioned, the time to customer is also shorter. You could provide inputs at a much faster pace as compared to him waiting or you waiting to give any kind of input. Fantastic. Rajeev, coming to you, trying to delve a little deeper into, more on the application side. You at V Express, I'm sure the name itself suggests that, time bound is something which is important, but you are a part of the large V Trans group, if we have to look at it from that perspective, and where you would be providing various services, across application segments. Whether it is bulk commodities or various non-bulk commodities that are there, and which are moving using surface or road transport today. Do we see a substantial difference in the applications or not applications, in the services which are kind of availed using telematics for certain set of applications, and a very different kind of services being availed for a different set of applications? So how diverse are these, or they are largely uniform, if we have to say, in nature? If you could throw some light on that.
From the customer's perspective, for us, I think it's still evolving. It's still evolving in terms of getting more analytics and data from the telematics devices per se. So it's not differentiated to that great extent.
Sure.
But yes, as in between Animesh also said, that at a consignment level, if you are able to track that where your equipment is at this point of time, that is something which customers are asking, and we give it to only specific customers, because again, we can't open this information in the web domain because it contains sensitive information that where my truck is going, to lakhs and lakhs of material in my trucks, so I can't actually open up the information to everyone. So we give it in a closed portal where the customers want it. We give that access to them in terms of understanding. They can track their shipment and it will say it is crossing Begusarai, for example.
Sure.
So that option is available with us. So slowly we are opening up to customers specifically. But what we use more in terms of is, as I said, the location kind of arrivals, departures. So for example, when my truck comes into my warehouse, I have a TAT of 3 hours before it should leave that particular premises. So from the arrival to departure, I take 3 hours time. So the entire unloading has to be done within 3 hours time. And then it goes away from the dock. And then again, whenever the loading has to be done, then it's called in and then the loading is done. So we measure the performance of my flow people from that telematics. And also in terms of the turnaround time, the waiting period of a truck in any location, how much of hours actually the truck is holding up in that location. So all those data, we use it to optimize our entire network. Also, we have started working in terms of using some of this telematic device data to optimize the overall network in terms of whether my hubs are in the right locations, whether my branches are in the right locations. So those data are also trying to do some kind of a working. The huge amount of algorithms are being worked out on that to actually look into that optimization, but that's work in progress at this moment of time. But one big challenge what we face is, because if you see as a norm, it has come from BS6 standards only in terms of putting the devices. Now, when we have so many vendors who are engaged with us, everyone has a different service provider. Now, integrating so many 25, 30 different service providers API into the system becomes a big challenge. So hence what we have done is we have basically now gone to 2 service providers or 3 service providers where we are asking the vendors to put that device. Now that could be a third device. One from the original equipment supplier, one they have used their own, and the third one is ours, or maybe the fourth one it could be also. So now that's a challenge we have. Now, with this norm coming in, at least we'll have only the OEM, 5, 6 OEM from where we buy vehicles. So at least that gets limited to those numbers of devices where I can actually have the APIs and I can start tracking it. But with 25, 30 APIs, it's very difficult to manage so many APIs. So that's the challenge we are having now. So we have a third party, as I said, who are providing those integration to us with their devices. And then we are tracking the entire thing. But going forward, I think that will minimize, and then we'll have the direct access to the OEM data. And from there, we can actually utilize it better. So that's where we are at this point.
One more thing, this is something that you mentioned that you guys are doing proactively, or you guys are trying to align yourself with the market. Is it that the customer has matured over a period of time and he's asking for certain services to be provided to him, because as we discussed earlier, e-com again, I'm again quoting e-com because, that is one industry which has matured substantially, with respect to the usage of telematics. But is it that apart from that, there are different industries demanding different kind of features in terms of telematics in your vehicle, and they are looking at those features very closely for some level of improvisation at their end?
Well, telematics is a basic requirement to sign up a contract with any customer.
Okay.
So it is absolutely mandatory. That's a basic. So now, asking for the telematic device, no, it has not yet evolved to that level. Very few customers want it. And particularly, it is only when there is a crisis, they want that data. Otherwise, they are completely relying on our track and trace system, what we have.
Sure.
And few of them ask for the track and trace with the exact location. So that's very, very few customers. So getting telematic devices from us is still not that prevalent at this moment. Few FTL customers definitely want it. Some of their full tracking which customers they use, they want that login access, so they want to track those vehicles. So we give those tracking access to them, or we give the access through a portal to them to track those vehicles.
Sure.
Otherwise, it is not very widespread at this moment.
Sure. Thanks. Animesh, coming to you, you lead, kind of customer initiatives not only for India but also South Asia. How are you seeing a difference in those markets, in comparison to the Indian market? Are they, far more matured as compared to what the Indian market is in terms of technology, in terms of offering services using telematics? Or, we are, kind of fast catching up with them? Is there a gap if there is, in any sense?
Okay, so my understanding would be that look, the evolution of the location is happening all across, right? Some region would be at a higher state compared to India. Maybe because of the maturity of the market, maybe because of the maturity of the demand that the market is asking for. But more or less, there would be, I would say, when you talk about this part of the world, okay, it's more or less almost similar. Maybe they are at a certain higher level by degree of some 30-40% compared to India. But there would be a stark difference when you're talking about Europe and US and the other market, where the kinds of requirement, the kind of expectations that they have is very different. But from here, it's not that it's not going to be that different.
So basically,
and some of the market here also, sorry, just to add one more point. Some of these markets would probably be even at a lesser level. For example, when you talk about South Asia, we also have countries like Bangladesh, countries like Nepal, countries like Sri Lanka, right? These are the countries that actually, in a lot of time, they look up to India, and what happens here gets replicated over there. Sorry, I mean it's something that's happening now. Okay, so there also we have a kind of India has a leadership in terms of the early adoption, right?
Sure, sure.
That's and if you look at from a Southeast Asia would be probably at a higher level compared to.
Sure, sure. So basically, what you are saying is most of these markets are in different level of maturity, as you rightly mentioned. Maybe Europe and US may be at a very different level as compared to what Southeast Asia is. India maybe not too far behind in comparison to Southeast Asia, maybe a 30-40% delta, but there are also markets, which are following India in a way, where they are trying to benchmark India and see that services provided in India are. So basically, even this will be a good value proposition for OEMs, when they look at markets beyond India, that this is something, which is a must have for these kind of markets, if they have to deploy vehicles there or, kind of ship vehicles there.
I just want to add one point there. So, see, what happens is that for a lot of these markets, what happens is as a technology provider, there are a lot of products that we introduce in a market based. For example, in India, if you look at it, there's something called truck attributes, right? The truck attribute is something which is very relevant from an telematics companies that provide telematics. Because see, a way a passenger vehicle travels, the roads that it can travel, the timings that it can travel, the speed limit that it can travel is very different compared to that of a commercial vehicle. And the stops that a commercial vehicle has. So in that case, the product that one has to use is the truck attributes. Now, truck attributes is something which may not be so easily available in every market, right? But as the market matures, they start demanding these kind of a very specific requirement based on the business that they are in.
Sure. So coming back to, Bharat, you and Rajesh, one question, see, we've largely spoken from a cargo perspective, as to where things are being deployed. But even if you look at, say, buses point of view, so today schools is one large, kind of user for buses, then you also have STUs, which is one other, large pie, more of intra-city kind of operations. Yes, a little bit of intercity also. And then, you have other application segments like staff, ambulances, etc., etc. So is it a case that, more planned the application? So like say school, which has a proper route in place and, there is route planning in comparison to say some other application segment, which may be a little more ad hoc in nature. Is it that, in terms of applications which have a fixed route planning or, a fixed way of operating, the productivity on account of telematics will be far higher or better as compared to the ad hoc ones?
No, in our opinion, and that's what we are working on, is that the retail solution which we have has also a passenger element in that, and passenger is little different business, right? So in that case, it is people movement, and hence planning, route planning, safety, all of this becomes so critical, and all of this, right? So for school, safety would be of utmost importance, right? And this is true for all telematics. Whoever is using telematics, right? They pivot around something. Like say somebody is pivoting around track and trace. That I need best in class track and trace, and everything else can be there. Somebody is pivoting around safety, and if they want safety features at the highest level, and then everything else is around that. Somebody is planning on maintenance. So if you look at passenger, it is mostly on safety, and then you look at turnaround time, because the route is fixed and you want to maximize the buses on the road at the most of the time, right? So whether it's intercity, intracity, for both traveler, the route operator, and the operation manager, all three will have the role to play. That's what we are building. We are trying to build as a solution, so that it becomes easier for the entire ecosystem to have a play, right? So then only the efficiency will come in, because the traveler has to get ETA, he has to get when the bus is coming. Second is the route operator, who has to know the cost, and the planner, who has to plan the trip and everything. So all three will have to have a interface which marries to each other, and hence we are able to offer a solution which is seamlessly getting into the. So yes, for passenger, it is safety, planning, and operating cost. All three are important, and that's what is on built on.
Sure. Mr. Mishra, you would like to add something?
The way I would put it, every segment, like we talked about commerce, so there are 2-3 stakeholders. One is the e-commerce player. Other one is some aggregator who's lining up this individual transporter, and the end transporter himself. So needs, the basis stakeholders are different. For a school bus, as Bharat was saying, what is school requirement, what is parents requirement, and what is say driver requirement? They are all very different. So there is no one solution. So I'll give you. So what we did that when we were wanting to penetrate a school bus, we have a partner solution. OEM cannot develop everything. Okay, so we have integrated that solution with our telematics ecosystem. So that gives them, so for operating cost management from a school perspective, my platform is delivering most of the insights, right? For parent purpose, or when children is likely to come near home, and when they should exit from their houses to pick their children back to their houses, all that management, there is a very good, strong solutions available, and which you simply need to integrate with your platform. Coming back to your other point, fixed routes. So, again, there is so much of, opportunity, I would say. So when we were doing our trip management, service design, so we have some pilot customers whom we work very closely. So, when we looked at that customer fleet operates on a very fixed route every day, morning, evening. Some 80 trucks moves on the same route, right? But when we started digging down and doing the analytics, we found there were at least 15 intermittent route which the drivers were following.
Right.
Because of which was not getting the same fuel efficiency for all the drivers.
Okay.
So how do you design some of these services, and then you always recommend him what is the optimal route which every driver has to follow, and if he is deviating, how you are going to prompt him, etc. Third thing which came out during the study, that now FASTag cost itself is quite high. So are there routes which where you can avoid the toll tax versus what is the additional consumption of fuel? What is the mathematics around it? So so as we evolved, as we dig in more data, we find more opportunity and more value to customers.
No, sir. Important points. Kind of you as you rightly tried to put in. Once you start providing a few things, the expectations only keep going up, and the customer would in a way need solution for everything that you are willing to offer. Sir, a tangent question, probably I would like to pose to each and every one of you that is there in the panel is that we are seeing a lot of disruption, even in the industry from a powertrain perspective, especially post BS6 coming in. We've seen and the prices of diesel crossing 100 was more like a nightmare for a lot of people, and there was a lot of switch that happened to CNG. We started seeing petrol coming in BS6 powertrains, especially on the small vehicle side or the small commercial vehicle side. Uh, and now we are also talking about electric, kind of vehicles coming in. We've got Tata, which has, introduced the Ace in the market. There are a few other players, like Omega Siki, which has a product in the market, and a few more. Even Eicher is planning something on the ICV platform. Tata has one, which it had showcased in the Auto Expo on the ICV platform. We have Leyland, those, in the E platform, etc. There are a lot of things happening on the electric front. So with changes happening in the product itself, where this entire component of fuel efficiency or mileage is something which may in a way go away, if I have to say so. How is it that you guys are looking at this, in terms of either an opportunity or a challenge, or how are you trying to address this particular kind of area?
So very good question, and I think so. That's where if you look at it, as you said, CNG electric. What is the differentiation between one OEM to another OEM? So your differentiation is not going to be around only fuel efficiency. So we have picked up the uptime as a major theme for us, and whatever needs to do around uptime, that remains a very focus area. Whether it is expanding distribution network, whether it is setting up new predictive uptime services. Thirdly, we have today on our platform, customer has complete insight or on our uptime commitment of same day delivery in workshop, how the workshop is performing, what kind of maintenance cost trend he is seeing, advanced service planning. So basically, OEM has core services of OEM has become sticky with the customer.
Got it. Got it.
So that's the direction where we all have to work on electric, on hydrogens, and all kind of new technology. But that is where I see the stickiness will form, right? What is your core as a overall offering to your customer? I'm not talking about telematics and connected, and how much you engage your customer with that. That is what is going to be the differentiator.
Important and valid point, sir. Bharat, Rajeev.
So I have a little difference of opinion. See, in terms of whether we go to ICE or you go to or you go to electric or you go to hydrogen, right? The fuel, when I say fuel, can be electric also, can be hydrogen also, can be ICE also. That efficiency remains the most critical part. Even if you go to EV also, the consumption of electricity, the battery itself and the charging itself will cost a good amount of share, right? Whether you go to hydrogen, it will be similar, right? So that efficiency management is the key. That will remain there, whether it is ICE or EV or hydrogen, wherever you go. The efficiency management is the key. Now the question is, where do we see a value coming from customer? We see a value which is going to be from ecosystem. How efficient you are, or how efficiently you are able to create an ecosystem platform where everything is available for a customer. So whether he is a ICE customer, whether he is a EV customer, so we are actually building our fleetage the way that both EV, ICE, CNG, everything is available there, and people are with every powertrain, they'll find value there, because the value will not be only on FE, not only on uptime. Value will be how integrated are you with the ecosystem. The ecosystem efficiency goes up. Because if you go to EV, the charging infra becomes the key, and that has to come on the platform anyways, because that becomes pivot there. So for every kind of platform, from every set of customer, for every set of application, there has to be a pivot where he finds a hook there and he sticks to you. and then the remaining services can be offered as a add-on to that customer or to the ecosystem partner, so that we find value in that. That's where we move, and that's how it should be done, right?
Sure.
So I just wanted to expand what Bharat is saying. I think, Hemant, there are two aspects to your question. One is your product technology change, and other is the business model. So when we talk about EV business model, is not going to be a product selling model. As you know, most of the electric buses tenders, they are coming on per kilometer. So and you are getting revenue basis per kilometer of running of these buses.
Gross cost model.
All this operational efficiency, fuel efficiency, this goes internal for me to manage my operation cost better. So from a customer perspective, it is he's only asking for uptime, SLAs, and if you don't perform your SLAs, you will have penalties. And how do you manage all this with your reasonable cost structure? So the play is a business model come technology both put together.
Sure. Any inputs you would like to provide, kind of Rajeev or Animesh?
If I see here, the only price which has not changed is for logistic companies. Everyone has the price except logistic company. When I started 20 years back in this logistic industry, the same rate per kilo used to charge. I think we charge lower than that. So the only thing what we have done is the OEMs have helped us to make the vehicles longer, taller, broader. So we carry more stuff in those same trucks.
And probably also have more life as compared to what you had a couple of years ago.
and of course, in terms of per ton, per kilometer we carry, that has to keep on optimizing, that has to keep on reducing, because the price brand is not going up. It's still that 8 rupees a kilo we used to carry a certain lane, and still we can get 8 rupees. But yes, the cost has been optimized to build up profits. So any kind of new technology which comes in, I think we are one of the early adopters to it, to see that there's any benefit which you can get it. So particularly we definitely moved a lot of our fleet within 200 kilometers to CNG, because we saw the benefit of using CNG, but of course CNG price also went up. So there also the overall cost is still cheaper than, but then still the price has gone up.
Sure.
So we are eagerly waiting for electric vehicles. Now the vehicles which are available, these are sub 500 kilo or 600 kilo payload capacity, which for a cargo company like us is not the right fit. We do use some of these EVs in Delhi. We are using some of those for trial basis. But we need higher capacity vehicles. So we are waiting for our partners to build those vehicles for people like us, and we will be eager to adopt those technologies. So as logistic companies, we are always eager to adopt technologies, adopt better ways of doing things, because at the end of the day, that's how we make a little bit of money in this industry.
I'm sure, both Rajesh and Bharat are smiling, and they are just waiting for you guys to, kind of adopt this as soon as possible. And probably they may also require support from your end by collaborating with them in terms of coming together for charging infrastructure, etc., which could be put up at your depots, which could in a way facilitate, better or faster turnaround and, lower that range anxiety, if I have to say so. Animesh, any comments from your side?
So definitely, I can't comment on the what Rajesh and Bharat has mentioned. That's the domain of the the OEMs. But I want to add one point to it. One of the part of the question was on the fuel efficiency, right? Yeah. Now, when you talk about a fuel efficiency, and as a technology company, I just want to put my 2 cents as to what can we do. Okay, now we're talking about 2 different things. We're talking about an IC platform, and we're talking about the EV platform here. Whether it's an ICE, let me talk about the ICE platform first. If you talk about an ICE platform, and whether you're talking about the last mile or mid mile or the first mile, whichever mile you're talking about, right? What becomes a very important is how you optimize your route. The route optimization becomes very important. It's something that is being done. And this is where technology player can play a role in terms of optimizing, in terms of ensuring that you really avoid the route that you should not be taking because of congestion, because of bad condition of the road, or whatever it is, and give you that additional fuel efficiency that you're talking about, right?
Sure.
Now, moving from an IC to the EV aspect. Now, when you look at the EV aspect, and you just touched upon the range anxiety part, right? Range anxiety is very, very critical, but you also got to remember range anxiety becomes very important from a passenger vehicle perspective. But when you talk about a commercial vehicle perspective, you're talking about a longer range, right? You're talking about probably going up to 400 kilometers, 500 kilometers, 600 kilometers. That's the kind of a distance that you're talking about. In that case, the range anxiety cannot be mitigated by a normal this, but what we call as what we call the multi-stop routing. Now, multi-stop routing as a technology which exists today would help you route your vehicle in such a fashion that it takes into account the multiple stoppage that you would be doing to go and recharge your battery before you reach your final destination.
Sure.
These things again becomes a very important from an EV perspective, from a commercial vehicle. So that's the two cents that I wanted to add here.
No, pretty important. And if you ask me today, those levels of awareness also needs to be created in the market, with EVs coming in or EVs being deployed for multiple applications. There is a question that, Bala, can we move to the Q&A part, where there is a question that Amit has, if we would.
Yes.
Want.
Sure.
So there is a question that Amit from Safe Express has, asked, probably Bharat, you could take the first shot at it. What will be the future of logistics companies in India as fuel or diesel prices have been continuously fluctuating? Is electric vehicle the solution? But it does require the best infrastructure and resources in India. Please comment, considering the real conditions of India, will it be cost effective or will it increase the cost of operations for logistics companies?
Okay, so logistics future in logistics companies, it's all about efficiency. Now because logistics as in India contributes to 14% of GDP, right? And in a developed country it is 8%, right? So it has to become efficient, and hence multimodal, the connected vehicle, all of these elements will start playing a role in infrastructure. And then we look at so that all of this will start playing a role, and then we also look at how a large player and a small player both are able to collaborate and move together along with ecosystem is where the game will be. Is EV the solution? It depends on the segment, right? For last mile, EV might become a feasible solution, and it is a feasible solution. And within the next 2-3 years, we'll see a TCO parity coming in. For mid mile and inter miles, we might see a combination of EV, hydrogen, CEV, so all of this coming in, and we cannot put a finger as of now on when that will happen. But in next couple of years, we will see a good amount of movement happening in this space where EV whether it is charged, whether it is battery or FCEV, both will start playing a good role there, and we'll see. Depending on battery prices, depending on how the hydrogen prices, depending on how efficiently we are able to transport hydrogen, which is a big challenge as of now. All of this will play a big role in defining what logistics future will be. But efficiency will be the key going forward, and EV and FCV will play a big role in this.
Mr. Mishra, you would like to add on something?
No, I think Bharat spoke quite comprehensive. The only thing there maybe what I anticipate, large fleet operator would also change their model of distribution. What I mean, more hub and spoke. So major routes are covered through standard trucks and then local trucks on EVs. So how to bring the overall efficiency in the distribution? So there will be some kind of aggregation, disaggregation kind of model which will evolve.
Sure, I'm sure, I think there is a lot of education of customers that will have to be done once you have many of these vehicles on road. Because initially, typically in a commercial vehicle company, you have these CAM customers, with whom you initially give your initial set of vehicles. You kind of see how the vehicle is performing before a larger rollout. I'm sure with EV coming in, even that is going to become a norm, like even in EVs, and you will actually test, see, and then kind of build that awareness in the market. So it's a process which is bound to happen. I also foresee that operating costs for EVs are pretty low. Especially when we look at the small commercial vehicle segment that Bharat mentioned, or maybe something up to ICVs, where EV could actually make sense because the operating economics may be favorable, and the maintenance cost anyways is much lower than what an ICE vehicle would be. Plus you will have a longer lifespan. So from that perspective, probably from a TCO perspective, it may start making sense a couple of years down the line, and we could see a lot more electrification happening starting from small commercial vehicles all the way up to ICVs. There is a question specifically for you, Mr. Mishra, that it's by Mr. Anand Krishnan. He asks you that if VCVs, all vehicles are connected, are they communicating V2V? How are you utilizing these V2V capabilities?
So, Hemant, this autonomous journey is into multiple levels. And in India, with the introduction of connected and telematics, we have reached maybe around level 2. So level 3, 4, 5, still it is a journey.
Yes.
So currently we are not doing this. But we know because of our partners, Volvo, we know how to go about doing it. As and when we think that it is right time, we will be able to introduce it.
So if you ask me, as you rightly said, Mr. Mishra, I think even in passenger vehicles where the technology levels are far more matured as compared to CVs, we are at ADAS level 3 for that matter. So for CVs, we still have some time to probably reach that level. We are barely scratching the surface, when it comes to connected mobility for that matter. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? Anybody would like to pose any question? You could do that in the chat box in the Q&A window, or you could also raise your hand and
You were good, Hemal. We're also at 3:35.
Sure. So I think we would like to conclude the session. So thank you very much to all the panelists for kind of sharing your views on the kind of subject that we had kind of agreed on. First of all, thank you, Nico, for that presentation. There were a few things which when one looks at what is happening in the Western markets, you actually feel that there's a larger journey that we need to traverse as a country to kind of bridge that gap. So it was very good to know a few things that you presented are being done in a few other markets globally. Also, thank you, Bharat and Rajeev, for sharing, kind of Bharat and Rajesh for sharing views from an OEM perspective as to how are you guys looking at, kind of telematics being deployed, whether it is, kind of developing new products or ensuring to bring in efficiency for the end customers. So, there is cost savings and revenue maximization or profit maximization. So at the end of the day, customers like Rajiv could get a better ROE, on what they deploy in terms of their resources. And thank you, kind of Rajiv, for sharing your perspective on, how various application segments are imbibing this technology. What is it that the customer is demanding today? How have you guys, kind of matured over a period of time with respect to, telematics being deployed in your vehicles? And how you've moved from a mobile-based GPS tracking system to actual telematics, and also raising important issues that there are too many providers and it becomes a little difficult to integrate data information. I'm sure that is one key thing that both Bharat and Rajesh would carry with them to ensure that, like we have interoperability, in something like telecom, I'm sure something of that sort is, which is the need of the hour, even when it comes to telematics solutions in India. And last but not the least, Animesh, thank you for sharing your views on, how are you seeing this develop in India, and also kind of bringing out the fact as to how different is it in other South Asian geographies and, kind of other mature markets in the world. Bala, over to you, Bala. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Himal. I think you've done the role of thanking our panelist, our presenter as well. I mean, I'd like to thank you for expertly moderating this discussion. I think brought out a lot of interesting facts. I think you've already summed it up. We had the perspective from the OEM side, from the logistics fleet user side, and also from the technology side as well. And all started off with a very good presentation by Nico as well. So, and I'd also like to place on record our thanks for Kia Technologies for partnering us for this session, for giving an opportunity to bring together such a very eminent set of panelists, and giving them an opportunity to share their views as well. Yeah. And lastly, to our audience for tuning in, sharing their views, and I'm sure they will have had a lot of takeaways from the different views that came in as well. So until our next session, we have a series of webinars lined up as well. You will hear from us more about that. So until our next session, we wish the best to everybody. Take care, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.